Welcome to the castle, everybody. This is Nightsaber Z42, and this is Character Vault, a series where I go through the entire character creation process in various RPG systems from start to finish. And today, we're going to be taking a look at Star Trek Adventures. This is the second edition core rulebook, and I'm really excited to actually dive into this book to create a character for you guys. This is a marked improvement over the first edition in terms of layout and presentation, so I can actually read it. If you know, then you know. For now, let's go to chapter 4 on page 89. This is where all of our character creation stuff is going to be. Reporting for duty is where you have all of your character creation stuff. We have two different ways of creating a character. I'm going to do the character life path because this is the most involved process. You can do creation in play, but I'm just not really a big fan of that style. So on page 97 is where we get to start our life path. And really, what are the different steps for creating a character in this process? Well, first, we need to choose a species, and there's a variety of different species to choose from in this core rulebook alone. By picking a species, we get a species trait, +1 to each of 3 attributes, and a unique species ability. In step 2, we get to choose our environment. This is the type of world the character was raised on. We get a value and +1 to 1 attribute and +1 to 1 department in this step. In step 3, we get to choose our upbringing, and this is the kind of education the character had during their formative years and their kind of influence their parents and mentors had. With this step, we get +2 to 1 attribute and +1 to a single attribute and +1 to a single department. We also get 1 focus and 1 talent. In step 4, we get to choose our career path. In the case of Starfleet characters, choose which track of the academy they join, command, operations, or sciences. There's also other paths that you can take if you're not really sold on Starfleet. We get 1 trait reflecting their profession, 1 value, 3 points to spend on 2 or 3 attributes, +2 to a single department, +1 to 2 other departments, 3 focuses, and 1 talent. In step 5, we get to choose how long the character's career has been so far. Are they young and inexperienced, or a seasoned veteran, or somewhere in between? We get 1 value and 1 talent in this step. In step 6, we get our career events. These are 2 events that kind of shaped our character a little bit. We get 2 points for attributes, 2 points for departments, and 2 focuses in this step. And finally, in step 7, we have our finishing touches. We get 1 value, +1 to 2 attributes, +1 to 2 departments, 1 talent, 1 or more pastimes, and then we get to adjust our attributes and departments so that they don't go over our maximum rating, and we get to record derived ratings such as stress and bonus damage, plus the character's name, pronouns, rank, character role, department, and starting equipment. The first step in our character creation process is to choose a species, and we can choose from Andorian, Aenar, Bajoran, Betazoid, Cardassian, Denobulans, Ferengi, Human, Klingon, Orion, Romulan, Tellarite, Trill, and Vulcan. I actually had my wife roll for this one, and she rolled into Denobulan. We get +1 to fitness, +1 to insight, and +1 to reason. Denobulans are also vulnerable to various forms of radiation poisoning. They are adept climbers, and they do not need to sleep, but they must hibernate for several days a year. We also get the Breadth of Study species ability, and this grants us 2 additional focuses, and I chose diagnostics and combat maneuvers. By the way, oftentimes when I make these characters that are high in complexity, like in Star Trek Adventures, there's a lot that we need to keep track of, things that we get to choose, but we might not know exactly what our character is going to turn out. So what I'll do instead is I'll create placeholders for these different aspects, such as the focuses right here in Breadth of Study. I didn't know exactly what my character was going to be, so I just put in a placeholder, and that way at the very end, one of my last steps that I'll do is I'll go back and I'll choose these focuses that actually would benefit my character. When I chose diagnostics and combat maneuvers, this was at the very end of the process, and I already knew what my character's role was going to be on the ship. The next step is to choose our environment. And the really cool thing is a lot of these steps are going to have random tables for the different things that you can choose. And I actually rolled here. But some of our options include another species world, a busy colony, frontier colony, a homeworld, isolated colony, and a starship or starbase, which is actually what I rolled into. And I specifically chose starbase. With this option, we do get a value, and this is one that you have to write yourself. And so I said, my home is among the stars. We also get to choose control or insight to increase by 1. I chose insight. And then we get to choose command, con, or engineering to increase by 1. And I chose con. Next, we get to choose our upbringing. This is how we were raised. Some of the options here include agriculture or rural, artistic and creative, business or trade, diplomacy and politics, science and technology, Starfleet or military, or we can just roll or choose again, which I think is a really weak option there. I rolled into science and technology. And the cool thing is, with these upbringings, there's actually 2 different paths. You can either choose to accept it, or you can rebel against that idea. So for example, with science and technology, if we accept this upbringing, they are rational, methodical, and precise, and increasing their control by 2 and their reason by 1. If the character rebelled against this upbringing, they don't lack technical talent, but they haven't developed that talent and instead rely more on instinct, increasing their daring by 1 and their insight by 2. Needless to say, I chose to accept this upbringing, so we get +2 control and +1 reason. We also get to increase either con, engineering, science, or medicine by 1. I chose engineering, and we get a focus, and there are some examples included. I chose warp field dynamics, kind of something to do with engineering, and we get a talent as well, and I chose I know my ship. And so with I know my ship, the requirement is engineering +4. Whenever you attempt a task to determine the source of a technical problem with your ship, the first bonus d20 you purchase is free. Next, we get to choose our career path, and you can either be in Starfleet or not in Starfleet. So with Starfleet, we have things like Starfleet Officer, Starfleet Enlisted, Starfleet Intelligence, but we also have the Diplomatic Corps. We have Civilian Physician, Civilian Scientist, Civilian Official, and Civilian Trader. If you opt to go into Starfleet, then you have to choose a division as well, either Command, Operations, or Science. I chose Starfleet Officer because I really wanted my character to be in Starfleet, preferably as a pilot, and so we're also going to opt into the Command track. We do get the Starfleet Officer trait. By picking this option, we also get a value, and the value I chose is the Prime Directive is there to remind us that we are not gods and should not act like them. Of course, you do not have to choose any of the examples given here. You can make your own, but I actually really like that one, so I opted to choose it. The character gains 3 attribute points, which may be split between 2 or 3 attributes. I chose +2 daring and +1 reason. Then we can either choose command or con as the character's major, the subject they studied most intensely. This department is going to increase by 2, and then we can select 2 other departments as the character's minor subjects, which are then increased by 1 each. So for the major department, I chose con, so we get +2 con, and then for our minors, I chose command and engineering, so we get +1 for each. We get 3 focuses in this step as well, and I chose evasive action, astronavigation, and Starfleet protocols. We also get a single talent here, and I chose thread the needle. When you perform the impulse minor action or warp major action when piloting a starship, enemy attacks from ships with a greater scale than yours increase in difficulty by +1. If attacked by a ship with a scale that is double or more the scale of your ship, then you increase the difficulty by +2 instead. Next, we get to choose how experienced our character is. We can be a novice, we can be experienced, or we can be a veteran. And since we are just straight out of Starfleet Academy, we're going to be a novice. You're defined by your potential more than your experience. Your raw talent and expectations of what the universe is like have not yet been tempered by reality. We do get a value here, and I chose I must be the best. And unfortunately, we do get a talent called untapped potential. This can only be used by novices and only during character creation. We select one of your attributes when you receive this talent. In this case, I chose control. You're inexperienced but talented and with a bright future. You may not have or increase any attribute to above 11 or any department to above 4 while you have this talent. Whenever you succeed at a task for which you bought one or more additional dice by any means, roll a d20 after the roll. If you roll equal to or less than the chosen attribute, gain 1 bonus momentum. If you roll higher, add 1 threat instead. While you possess this talent, you cannot gain any higher rank than Lieutenant Junior Grade, or a higher enlisted rate than Petty Officer. Next, we have our career events. We get to roll or choose from a list of options. There's 20 options. We have things like betrayed ideals for a superior, breakthrough or invention, called out a superior, conflict with a hostile culture, dealt with a plague, death of a friend, discovered an artifact, encountered a truly alien being, first contact, lauded by another culture, learned unique language, mentored, negotiated a treaty, new battle strategy, required to take command, serious injury, ship destroyed, solved an engineering crisis, special commendation, and transporter accident. I rolled for both of these, and the first one I rolled for was learned a unique language. The character encounters a species with an unusual form of communication and learns to communicate with them. We get +1 insight and +1 science. We get some focus suggestions, and I chose negotiations. I also rolled for solved an engineering crisis, which I feel really fits our character. The character was instrumental in ending a crisis caused by malfunctioning technology and saved many lives in the process. We get +1 control, +1 engineering, and we get some focus suggestions as well, and I chose warp engines. Last but not least, we have our finishing touches. We get a value, and I actually chose one of the Denobulan suggested values. You cannot truly learn about people unless you talk to them. We get +1 to 2 attributes, and I chose fitness and daring. We get +1 to 2 departments, and I chose command and security. We get 1 talent, which I chose as Starship Expert. Whenever you succeed at a con task to identify a type of starship or to try to understand an unknown form of starship, you gain 1 bonus momentum, which may only be used on the obtain information momentum spend or to pay part of the cost of the create trait momentum spend. We do get a pastime as well, and I chose Batleths and Bainhunuks. Hopefully I said that right. If you know, then you know. And our role is going to be Flight Controller. Our rank is also Lieutenant Junior Grade, which is the highest that we can actually get by being a novice. For equipment, we just have these standard equipment, so uniform, communicator, tricorder, and a sidearm. And our stress is equal to our fitness score, which is 9. And that's really all there is to creating a character. So let's take a look at the final character sheet. So here we have Plox, our Denobulan friend. He is a Lieutenant Junior Grade. He's the flight controller for the unnamed starship, which we'll create in the next character creation video. For species and traits, we have Denobulan and Starfleet Officer. For our environment, we have Starbase. For upbringing, we have Science and Technology, which we accepted. Our career path is Starfleet Officer, and our experience is Novice. For our first career event, we learned a unique language. And for our second career event, we solved an engineering crisis. By the way, our stress is at 9, which equals our fitness score. Speaking of attributes, we have a 10 in control, a 10 in daring, a 9 in fitness, a 10 in insight, a 7 in presence, and a 10 in reasoning. For our departments, we have a 3 in command, a 4 in con, a 4 in engineering, a 2 in security, a 1 in medicine, and a 2 in science. For our values, we have I must be the best, my home is among the stars, the prime directive is there to remind us that we are not gods, and you cannot truly learn about people unless you talk to them. For our focuses, we have evasive action, astronavigation, Starfleet protocols, negotiations, warp engines, and warp field dynamics. We do have our pastimes, which we wrote there. If you know, then you know. And our species ability is breadth of study, which gives us +2 focuses. Our talents include thread the needle, untapped potential, starship expert, and I know my ship. I didn't bother writing any attacks or anything like that because, well, Plox is really going to be our flight controller. So all of the attacking we're probably going to do is with our starship. And so that concludes this video. Feel free to leave a comment down below. Give this video a huge thumbs up to support this series, and I will see you guys in the next video.